Hey, Emily,
Hey, Stephanie.
you want to do a podcast?
Absolutely.
Welcome to Cycle Chats, a podcast to destigmatize what it means to be a woman. This is episode 16, Mind Over Mirror. We're talking to a female empowerment coach who's helping women explore the strength of exploding self-love and showing them how to exercise their biggest enemy, their mind. Cassandra. Well, welcome so much to the show. I know, God, the journey to get to this point, right? We had to reschedule, but like worth the wait. I'm very glad you're here and I'm excited to talk to you.
Oh my God, likewise. It's so exciting to be here. It's a beautiful day and you girls have this like wonderful, just like powerful energy. So let's dive into it.
I need to know, how did you get into this field of empowering women?
And it's really hard to even answer that like really like shortcut because there's so many things that can bear out to. And as you know me already, like I just kind of go on a tangent. So basically I'm just someone who seeks a lot of growth and discomfort. And that just come from a lot of experience in the past and basically just not being into alignment. And when you get older, you start knowing yourself a little bit better and you seek those growth opportunities. Whereas when you're a lot younger, you seek conformity, right? And within that, you have those experiences and everything goes back to insecurity. And I'll even say like your boundary seeking, right? Like you are all your inner child's healing, right? So until you bring that awareness forward, like you don't really know yourself. So the way I kind of got in this field was like, I actually am like the black sheep of my family, as probably many people listening to this podcast can understand, maybe you girls too. All Western med, like all into science, all in health related fields, like whatever it may be. And I just kind of followed that path and veered away because like, nope, this is just not working. And I got too comfortable and I wasn't living my life for me. I was living my life for external acceptance. So I kind of veered off that path, would dive too deep into it, but I basically was living, I'm from Ontario and I was living in Toronto for a few years. I had been living with a partner and not such a great relationship for a few years, moved back and just said, you know, enough is enough. I don't know who Cassandra is anymore. And then moved off, switched my career, switched everything about me and kind of took a really scary route in terms of finding myself again and feeling empowered within that. So you become really empowered in seeking those truths in yourself, but you can't seek that truth unless you decide to be courageous and bold in not knowing what the next step is and trusting in the process. Because I think a lot of discomfort comes from like all of us as human beings don't like the unknowing. We want to know the answer and our future is already like, it's already paid for us. We already like have set things in the universe are going to happen, but it's us becoming into alignment with that and realizing that. So within just issues that happened, I kind of just become more spiritual. I just became very attuned and aware of insecurities in my inner child wounds and accept them. And I take full ownership in what that is. And when I meet people, I say, hey, like, this is who I am. This is who you're dealing with. I accept this. I'm choosing not to stay with this narrative, but I need to accept this so that you understand me and you understand my triggers and I can just be fully transparent and honest with you. So that's just how it's kind of been. And I just take pleasure in helping and empowering other people in fitness and health. I'm still going forward, entrepreneurship, whatever it may be. I'm on my path. So I just love helping others. It's a beautiful journey. And like anything else in life, I feel like if you're not constantly learning and evolving, you're kind of essentially dying.
Oh, I completely agree. You said something interesting. You talk about your healing your inner child. So this is actually something I recently learned about. So Emily and I, we talk about it a lot. We were teachers, children's theater teachers, and it dawned on me how critical some of these years are when you're growing up. So maybe you've lacked a little bit of something here or there. As you get older, your insecurities really are manifesting out of that. So when you start to acknowledge them and you're like, oh, and you click into this thought of, oh, that's where that's from. Well, I better talk to my inner child and get to know what is it that you need. I mean, kid says they want love, you give them love. And it's the same for yourself. You take that part of you and you say, well, wouldn't I want to give my younger self love? I find that very important for people to understand that a lot of the things you maybe don't understand, like why is this bad behavior fear coming out, or why can't I seem to fix this? I feel like it comes from that lack of something growing up.
It's always a product of our growing up period. And I'm such a firm believer that like, and you'll see this on my like Instagram or whatever I'm publishing, like your pain is your purpose. We're all brought into this world with pain, but it's there because it gives us our character trait. Okay, so I'll give a really quick example if I may. I didn't have a father, like a great father-daughter relationship growing up. And through that pain, I was able to become a very, very strong female because that pain brought me empowerment. It brought me stability. It brought me independence. And if I, the paradox of that is I have girlfriends that had an amazing relationship with their father, but then when they go into dating, they have a lot of difficulties because they expect perfection. And that's where their pain and like, it's like so fascinating, right?
It's the complete switch of it. And you would think that it would be the other way around, but I think there's also a school of thought where you can take two paths with some of the situations that you're given. You can either say, oh, I'm going to do all of the things this person did to hurt me, or you can say, no, I'm going to find strength within these adversities and I'm going to do something different. And you do tend to see that a lot. And that is interesting that you pointed that out, because I was recently thinking about that myself. I was like, I wonder why that is, that you find women who have like gone through it, they seem to have this grip and this sense of something more stable when it comes to certain areas of their life, as opposed to somebody who's maybe, like that handed on a silver platter type of a deal, where somebody doesn't really understand because they've never really had to struggle. And not to say we should be struggling, but I do think it gives you a little bit more, just a little bit more something to grip, to hold on to say, this is going to build me up and I'm going to take this adversity and I'm going to use it for something positive.
But it's also the idea that we talk about a lot, which is the power of positivity. I really like the idea of string theory. I don't know if like I truly fully believe in it, but I love the idea of it. And as you said, your destiny is kind of laid out before you, but you kind of get to decide which scene you want it to play out with. So something goes on, you're walking down this path, you can either say, nah, I want to go to the right, or I want to go to the left. And then your destiny goes, oh, okay, no worries. Sure. Let's shift a little bit. But it's staying on the positive side of your mindset, which I think is everything. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people tend to look at the glass half empty instead of half full.
It's like another thing for you, for like an acronym, it's like fail, like it's your first attempt in learning and you're always trying to fail because that's what your experiences amount to. So like if you're not failing, like you're just not venturing out into discomfort. Like comfort for me is just extremely uncomfortable actually, because I feel like I hate saying that we're dying, but like I just don't feel like I'm living life, because you can be good at something and like this redundant pattern of just day in and day out, like what are you doing?
I think a little bit of fear in anything you do is good, because I think it shows you that this thing that you put so much emphasis on as being this big, all-powerful, gonna take you down, when you start to do it and you start to realize this wasn't that scary and you start to become better and better at it, you stop putting things on pedestals and you start being able to look at them eye level and say, oh, this is just another skill set I can put into my life. This is just another connection with someone else. We talk about the spider web. We just keep building the web bigger and bigger, and that there's room for all of us. I think when we put things on pedestals, we're limiting what we're able to experience, and especially with being able to connect with one another.
Oh, for sure. And if I may interject, one of the biggest moments I've had is like just really being uncomfortable in the sense of opening up my vulnerability to strength, like owning everything and just saying, this is who I am. These are my wounds. Like, I just want to let you know this is who I am. And I take ownership. I'm not going to let this make me like a weak person, but you need to understand this is where I'm coming from. And that's strength. Like just owning that and saying, I'm not choosing to follow this narrative, but it's not something you can fix. So we were saying about this before. It's not something like a pattern from your inner child's healing. You can't fix it. You can work on it and be aware of it, but it's part of you. So just to be aware is beautiful.
Honor your inner child.
Self-awareness is incredible, and it's a skill that I don't think a lot of people have. Unfortunately, they aren't taught to refer back, look back, meditate, really think about themselves. It's something that I have done, I would say, last 5 years when I had my last big breakup before I met my husband. That was a really big wake-up call for me to be like, oh, something was really wrong in that relationship. relationship. So let's work it out and start trying to become more self-aware so that I can move forward in my journey. And that's where it kind of started for me. So I, took the lemons, so to speak, and I made my lemonade.
That's amazing. Yeah. And it's interesting you see this pattern. Like I finally broke this pattern.
It was a pattern that I had in my relationship. Definitely the biggest ones, not like the silly boyfriends that lasted like no time, 2 weeks or something. But my long-term relationships, my two really long ones, they were both emotionally abusive relationships. Speaking about it now, it was definitely a pattern from my childhood, seeing my parents and the way they behaved with one another. I let that happen because of the way that I saw them behave. And then I just was like, nope, I don't deserve this anymore. I don't like this. I am self-aware enough to know that I deserve the love. I love Perks of Being a Wallflower. You accept the love you think you deserve. And if you have not read that book, you must read it.
I find that relationships outside of yourself always seem to be the aha moment to most women saying, oh, wait a second, I have to actually have a relationship with me. What do you find that women have the hardest time feeling empowered about?
Okay, so being an empath myself, I think a big thing is boundary setting, and I'm still learning this. Another big thing is not having a need for validation. Like you want what you want, and no one should ever tell you otherwise.
I love it. And something that you said before that I wanted to bring up was the idea that you're still on the journey. I don't think it ever ends, quite honestly. We have spoken to so many lovely, amazing, confident, self-assured, all of these just utterly incredible women basically have all said the same thing, that they're still on this journey. So it's realizing that it's not going to just like one day you're going to wake up and everything is sunshine, roses, and rainbows. This is self-work. This is what it is to be a human. And I said this in a podcast this past weekend, but there's a song in a show called Next to Normal that's give me pain if that's what's real. It's the price we pay to feel. Emotions are part of being a human. That's what we get. So it is okay to still be on the journey and have the journey last your entire life. Beautiful. Great. Make it a beautiful life. Work at your, insecurities, work on that journey, never get off that roller coaster. If you're me, please get off the roller coaster because I hate roller coasters, but just keep going on the teacup ride then and love yourself throughout it and find the positives. Because as I said before, I just think a lot of people tend to unfortunately think of just the negative.
Yeah, that's true. And it's like when you go back to energy. So I eventually went into like Reiki work, like energy healing work. That was a big changing point for me. And if you think of like energy, like we're all energy, like we're all atoms, we're all this space, right? And so energy, like our emotions, is just energy in motion, right? So whatever we're feeling, whatever we're pulling out is amazing because it's whatever our body's manifesting inside and needs to be released in some regard. And it deposits in our bodies.
That's a huge thing that people don't even realize, that when you are, think about it like this, right? The throat chakra thing. When you feel like you can't speak your mind, how often do you feel tense, right? I know for me, I feel it here in my neck, but it's also like me wanting to not hurt. Like if I hold it in my heart and I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, so then I can't really like say it. So for me, it's always heart and throat. And then I'll get a headache because now I'm overthinking. Should I have said this? Should I have? And a lot of times it's, should I have told a good friend, hey, I actually think the decision you're making is not going to benefit you, instead of just agreeing because I didn't want to upset her. So people don't realize energetically how often those headaches you're feeling, the tension in your neck, the upset stomach, the issues that you're feeling, if you start to acknowledge them energetically and emotionally, and you start to learn how different release techniques, you stop having those issues as often. And it's not just pop a Tylenol to get rid of the headache. Sometimes it's deeper than that, and you have to address it, but you have to acknowledge it's there first.
Oh, for sure. Like as soon as like I started acknowledging stuff that was going on in my stomach, like emotionally, why, like my IBS completely stopped. I could not figure it was wrong. Like, no, there's something deeper than this. And it's funny because even now, like when I had a rough couple months, like just like I was doing fine on COVID, and then December, January, even previously in February, I was doing pretty bad. But it was funny because I've been going to like RMT sessions because I had an accident in a car the other year. And first thing she says to me, your stomach is first thing, like off the bat. And yeah, that's where I hold my attention, and just awareness, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
interesting that you say that. Yeah, you just need to start to dig deep and work on that. And for everyone, it's very different. Like, what's your outlet? Okay, I'll just touch based on like the reason why I also did Reiki too is because I work with people so much that energetically speaking, I wanted to amalgamate them and understand a deeper sense, because I'm very, very intuitive. So when I meet someone, and like when I meet someone right away, I can read them so well, but I'm never going to be the person like pointing out stuff and then just go from there, right? It's this journey.
You're speaking our language, because this is really, because truly, when we have conversations with women, and especially on this podcast, it can be a very nerve-wracking environment for somebody who's maybe a little bit shy, someone not used to it. I mean, I have horrible stage fright, which is weird why I chose to do acting, beyond me. But because I also had that school of thought, like if I'm scared of something, I don't want it to control me for the rest of my life. And then I wake up one day and I'm like, oh, I should have done that. So I think when it comes to these podcasts, we talk to guests. That's so true, right? You don't ever want to come off like you're imperfect, but we forget that perfect is a concept. It's biased from person to person. So what one person considers perfect, quote unquote, another person does not. So I think room for error, and learning to love those little awkward moments, right? I think brings character to just communication and to connection with other people.
Well, even like your partners, someone's not perfect, they're imperfectly perfect, I love to say.
I am such a weirdo, but you know what? My favorite part about myself is that I'm just super weird, and you either like it or you don't. But I've gotten to a point in my life where I just don't really care. Everything you're saying is incredible and amazing, and the journey is a fantastic one. It really is. So it kind of brings me to my question, since we're talking about all these amazing things that you do for women. I'm sure you have a very interesting definition of what women empowerment means to you.
Yeah, oh my God. Like, it's not even like one standard definition. I think like socially, economically, politically speaking, like when I think about it, even now more so than ever, we can translate this to like all of us as a society going from like a patriarchal society to more matriarchal. And within that comes a lot of vulnerability and strength, right? So when I think about it, like understanding yourself and empowerment within that, and bring your voice, like raising your voice to strengthen and essentially optimize all of our strengths to just to be like an optimal society, right? To strengthen all of us around. Because I think a lot of people even still are like in the scarcity mindset of like there's not enough abundance, so like it's just all for me, when really like we are in a world of abundance. Just because someone's doing the same thing as you and the same whatever it may be doesn't mean that you're not going to be successful. Like biggest thing, like entrepreneurship, for example, how many times you see when like people are like, I can't do this because there's so many, I'll just give an example, like trainers online, people in this industry online, like I'm not going to be successful because there's too much competition. Well, if like you kept saying that, like you're going to manifest that. You're going to just bring that into your life, and it's in the scarcity mindset. So like you need to shut that voice down and figure out what you want and just go for it, whatever it may be.
I did that when we started this podcast. I was like, there's a lot of people doing it, and that's just been something that a pattern that I'm trying to break. And that came from like a real deep-rooted fear of failure. And that was like one of my big triggers when I was younger, and still to this day. If I feel like I've failed or I've messed up, I start to feel this spiral happening. And I'm like, whoa, hey, this is all part of the process. And I like that you said that there is room for everyone, because there is. Because think about it, we're all unique, right? So if we just had the same 5 people showing you how to do something with that theory of, well, everybody's doing it, well, then we wouldn't really have much variety. And that's the whole point, is that you're doing something, sure, a bunch of other people are doing, but they're not you. And that's the thing to key into, is you are bringing a unique flavor because they're not you.
I just want to touch on that really briefly. There's like this favorite quote. Actually, I have this board that I always write down quotes every morning. And it's like, you can't be everything that you want to be. And I'll touch on this in a second, but you can be everything that you're meant to be. In saying that, like you maybe not talented in certain areas that you really would like to be, But within diving deep and accepting and exposing your beauties, your natural talents, you can express those, the full expression completely, but you have to know yourself first to optimize that, right? So if you don't know your weaknesses and if you don't know your strengths, you can't really build on that and leverage those up, right? And I think that's a big thing. And you just like knowing yourself so deeply and knowing, like going back and knowing what drives you, what limits you, like full transparency. Like I would always attribute my worth to my success monetarily speaking. And this goes back to my growing up period. I pushed away a lot of money, success, because my dad was a workaholic and that was pain to me. So I didn't want to do that. And now what really empowers me, and I tell this to people all the time, is I took a route on a safe route with a job, with, security, benefits, all that stuff. And I left it because I wasn't happy. And that was scary as hell. And that was the biggest challenge of my life because it wasn't safe, monetarily speaking, everything. And I'm still on this path, and it still dawns on me to this day that I'm not good enough when I meet people or whatever it might be, because I'm not here successfully wise, because I'm in a family of very successful people. And it's a continual journey, but I accept that and I show that and I tell that to people. And I have to always remind myself that no, you are worthy. Like you are all these things. This is not your story, but I am aware. I'm not choosing to accept it right now as who I present, because that's a different vibrational frequency. But this is a part of who I am, and I need to tell you this. So it's like, it's both, right? It's this like paradox of like, this is who I am, but I'm choosing not to manifest that right now, but it might come up. So it just depends, right? So just knowing yourself, being empowered in who you are and your gifts, and being everything that you're meant to be versus who you think you should be,
or what other people want you to be. I know that's a real big one, especially if you come from an overly traditional family or whatever your cultural background is. Sometimes that pressure to perform, or very often we see as women to get married and have kids and have the husband that takes care of house, financially takes care of you and the children while you take care of house and home, and you raise them, you stay at home, and the whole white picket fence story. But I mean,
which is also fine if you want it.
absolutely. But it's not, I think, what it's being pushed to be. And right now there's the other side of it. Men suck, and you be your own powerful woman. You don't need nobody, and that's it. Only yourself. So there's those two extremes, and people don't realize that it doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be one right now, and then maybe you want the other later. But you're just not ready to manifest, like you said, to manifest that yet. You're aware of it, but you're like, not for me right now, right? I'm manifesting something else. Maybe I'll sprinkle that little add in when I'm done cooking over here.
Yeah, just owning it and just like being fully transparent in what you are, right? And I'm like, again, going back from my starting point in the beginning of the podcast, I am the black sheep of the family, whole family in Western medicine. I do energy work. Do you know how many times, like my youngest brother, I have 3 older brothers, like, what? I don't even bother explaining, because it's like this, we're not in a lot, like I don't try. It's like, you know what, if it's for you, if it's not, whatever.
And that's beautiful. And that's you having a real deep sense of self. And that is tough when you're the black sheep of the family. I feel that you're just like the odd one out. And then you start to realize you're like, yeah, but how happy are you doing what everyone is telling you should be doing, right? Because if you were to ask those people deep down, what do you really want to do? What do you really, really want to be doing? And some people really want to be doing that. But how often have you heard, I wanted to be a painter. I wanted to travel. I wanted to ride horses and tame tigers for a living. And you see that so frequently. So the fact that you're doing it now and you're living your truth now means that the gap for regret will be a lot smaller. And I think that's a really beautiful thing, because through that, you're showing other people how to shine their light bright and how to accept themselves and not be so scared of fear is only as big as you make it out to be. I used to say, sometimes the smallest dust bunny casts a shadow of a monster on the wall, but because it's under the bed, you can't see it, and you can't see how tiny it really is.
And I just want to let everyone know who's listening to this too. Often, more times than not, the black sheep of the family is the one that is the most self-aware, the one that does the most healing. And I'm going to go really briefly and say that and I've spoken to a lot of people about this, we are a gift to our parents. We're born into our family for a reason. So if you look at your parents and your relationship with them, you see their wounds, you're often the gift to your parents for the things that they didn't have from their parents. It's so deep.
Yes. Yes. Oh my God. My dad is going, he listens to this, of course, because my dad is the best. Wow. He's going to be a friggin' mess when he just hears that. He is an emotional man. So I hope he has his tissues. Daddy, I hope you have your tissues, because that was going to be really emotional for you.
Brought that to my parents' awareness like not too long ago. And I had the strongest relationship with both of them now. I don't have daddy issues anymore. I don't have issues with my mom. And they've changed tremendously. And they just thank me so much. Not that I need that, but I'm starting to heal things because I know that their parents weren't there for them. And I have this abundance of love that clearly they lacked. So we're always, you both are all, like everyone listening to this, you're always a gift to your parents for something that they lacked. We're always born into a situation for a certain reason.
My mouth is like open because I'm just like, we're twins, dude. I'm going through, it was like the same ish with me, man. I don't know, everyone just always felt so like out of place. And I was like, you get called overly sensitive or whatever. And I tried to fit the mold that other people wanted me to fit. And then once I just started fitting my mold, and I was like, yeah, but this is just like who I am. And I really started to not be judgmental to their wants and needs and thoughts. And I actually started to just, instead of fighting to be heard as this like weird creature of the night, I was like, maybe I should just stop and listen to them. Even if I don't agree with it, let me just stop and have this place of peace and have this space with them to like really talk about the whys. And I started saying, well, why do you believe that? Where does that come from? And that healing started to begin, because I'd be like, oh, well, that kind of, that plays into this thing that happened. You used to tell me this story, and they'd go, oh yeah, huh, I guess you're right. That was something that happened to me. I never thought of it that way. And then that healing begins. So you're like, it's like you're in my home, and like,
It goes this long journey, right? Like everything your parents say amount to, like, it's their dialogue and they're doing the best they can do. And you need to accept that, and you need to accept yourself and love yourself and forgive yourself first so you can forgive them. So that's the only way it happens. And they're doing the best they can do, given the grounds that they grew up with. And as soon as you realize and accept that, your life will be tremendously better.
But it leads me to my question, because we've talked about journey and your journey with love, with yourself, with your family. So what advice would you give your 15-year-old self?
This is a really good question, honestly. Like, I think like just be ready for everything that's going to come about, and don't have like resistance towards anything that's coming up. And the best way to do this is to have the strongest relationship with yourself, right? So become super aware and not be judgmental or hard on yourself. Don't have that shame. Get to know you first. I swear, if someone told me, go travel, go experience life and what this world has to offer before you go to school, I would have traveled way before. Like, those were the most pivotal moments I learned about myself, because you get to accept the wholeness of yourself. You get to embrace every part of yourself, the things you don't like, the things that you like. You create healthy boundaries because you get to know yourself a little bit deeper. You get to like meet these interesting human beings from all over the world. And then you just show yourself constant trust in the process. Just things kind of like evolve and happen out of that, because different experiences are brought to you without you like pre-planning it. Like, your life has maybe been in the past. I'm not saying that always happens, but I really wish that the school system was different, honestly speaking. Like, I wish that I traveled way more before I went to school. Not saying that I couldn't have, and the school system deemed on that, but I just really wish that someone had told me, you don't need to go to school right now because you don't really know yourself and you're doing what you think you need to do. Because I ended up going to university for a year into business, downtown Toronto, busy Toronto, and I was miserable. I was failing because I was in a serious relationship which didn't work out. I got proposed at the age of 18. Like, it was crazy. I was heartbroken. And then I wasted a year anyway. But I didn't waste it because I learned. But what I'm saying is, like, I just really wish that instead of going to school right away and doing what I thought I should do, externally speaking, that I just went and traveled and was like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Let's figure it out. If I could give advice, just don't go to school right now. Go live. Go make mistakes. Go do the things that you shouldn't do and just learn yourself.
Oh, learn yourself. I love that. I'm soaking in all of this, because it's, when I tell you, there's so much of what you said that has like really strikes a chord and resonates with my own life and what I've gone through and the things that I've experienced. Every single time we do this podcast, man, it's like that the world becomes more compact in a way that makes me feel safe. Like, I know there are other women out there that are doing the damn thing, and you are certainly doing it. And I want other people to be able to experience the magic that is this empowerment that you give off. So, where can people find you? And do you have any fun projects coming up?
Oh my God, I'm diving into so much stuff right now. Obviously on Instagram, like my Instagram is so small because I'm still like working a full-time job right now at the moment at a gym nearby, but I'm busting out a bunch of different projects, home care products. I'm doing my life coaching. I'm launching a new website. So all the details, if anyone wants to contact me, they can do so directly just on Instagram or email me, cmakerew@gmail.com. I am again going to get my website up and running very soon because I'm amalgamating everything.
Well, all the applicable links and all that good stuff is going to be in the description below for anybody listening. This was lovely. Thank you so much for taking time to talk to us. It's just like time is a beautiful gift we're given, and I'm glad our paths crossed, and I'm very grateful that you took time to speak with us.
Welcome to our spider web of incredible women.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? Time can be measured in other aspects too, right? The memories we have, the laughs we share, it doesn't have to be, like a specific number. So I am really grateful. We obviously came to alignment. So I'm just very happy we got to do this, and I would love to do it again.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for stopping by, and thank you for joining us on this incredible journey. And we hope you sync up with us next time.